Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to show you just exactly how I painted this sky, the techniques I used and how I mixed all the colours. So I hope you enjoy it and find something useful. Okay, I've got my colours mixed here for the blue in the sky. I'm using titanium white, Payne's grey, ultramarine blue and phthalo blue. For the fields I'll be using yellow ochre. I will be diluting these colours here with plenty of mineral spirits. This is just the first course of the painting. Right, I'm going to blend these blues now using this 3-inch Motley brush. Right, now while the paint's still wet, I'm just going to mark out the clouds by wiping some of the paint off with a dry rag. Right, I'm going to start blocking in these clouds now. Now the mix I'm using for this is titanium white and yellow ochre. So to block these clouds in, I'm just laying on a very thin coat of this mix. Just gently brush out like that. So I don't want any thick layers of paint here. Now, before we start mixing the colours to paint these clouds, let's have a quick look at the reference photo and decide what colours to actually mix. Now, if we look at this photograph here, we've got these grey, sort of purple grey clouds. Now, we've got here a lighter version of this purple grey. Now, if we move down here, we have a bluish sort of grey. Some darker values and some lighter values. Now over here we have a sort of a reddy purpley grey colour with a few sort of peachy pinks coming through into this sort of yellow cloud down here. A few darker yellow areas here. Some lighter areas up here. So it's always important before you start mixing your colours just to have a look at whatever reference material you're using and just decide what sort of colours to actually mix. So let's go ahead now and mix these colours. These are the colours I've mixed for the sky. Now I'm using titanium white, yellow ochre, cadmium red, ultramarine blue, phthalo blue and Payne's grey. To get this purple colour here we're using cadmium red and ultramarine blue mixed with white. It's still a little bit too purple this for the clouds, so I've added phthalo blue and I've added Payne's grey. Now I've come up with this sort of colour here. Now it's just right I think for these darker clouds. I've just added some titanium white to get this sort of light value. Remember that sort of cool area in the sky. Now to get these blue greys for the clouds just above the horizon, all I've done is I've added more blue, phthalo blue and ultramarine blue to these colours here, and I've got 3 values here by just adding more white. Now going back to this original purple grey colour here, by adding more cadmium red and some white, I've got this sort of warmer sort of purple coming through. Now by adding yellow ochre, I get this sort of peachy colours coming through. Now all these colours, again looking at the reference photograph, all these colours we've seen in this sky. Now with this large stiff brush and using this scumbling technique, I can just blend this colour onto the existing paint that's already on. This paint that's already on, by the way, is completely dry. Now the medium I'm using for these paints is Liquin Original. This just speeds up the drying time. I've got a light patch of cloud here, so I'm just adding white. I try to paint really sort of the background of the clouds first, and then sort of the dark clouds which are obviously on top, I'll paint them later. Now I'm using a large brush for this because I want to avoid putting any sort of detail in, really. It does help to get these nice, soft, natural edges to these clouds. I'm just using various dark greys, purple greys and blue greys that I have on my palette. Just mixing between them all. It's slightly different putting the darker greys on here because this is still wet, whereas on there it was quite dry, so it's just, it has a different feel to it. It's not quite as easy when it's wet, really. I've just got a plain rag here. Just going to see if I can soften some of this. You can either use a stiff brush or a rag. I've just decided to use a dry rag in this case. I'm really starting to like this part here now, so that's good. Now, using one of the greys that I've mixed, I've hardly got any paint on the brush at all. Just gently laying little bits of paint on, keeping those edges nice and soft. I'm just scrubbing a little bit of paint on here. That's not the sort of thing I'd do with a brand new brush. I have to keep stepping back as well when you're painting, just to see how you're progressing. Very difficult to tell if what you've done's right until you step back, really. And if parts you're not just quite happy with, just wipe them off with a dry rag. Now, some of these paints that I mixed this morning, because I've used Liquin to speed up the drying, you're starting to get a little bit stiff. So a tiny amount of Odorless mineral spirit just loosens them up a little bit. I'm just going to add a little phthalo blue to this area, these clouds here. It's not blue enough. Only a tiny amount, it just makes that difference, just knocks that purple off. As I keep saying, it is so difficult to judge the values of paint and the colours of paint while they're still on your palette. The colours change, the colours and values change so much from your palette to your painting. You can plan all you want and pre-mix all your colours like I have done, which I do recommend, by the way. but you still have to adjust your colours and your values once you start painting and as you are painting throughout. That mix of cadmium red and Payne's grey is perfect for some of these dark clouds. Absolutely perfect. As I say, a lot of these clouds I'm just making up as I go along. So, as I say, if you do decide to paint something similar, don't really focus on trying to do an exact copy. Just try and focus on just getting the feeling of the clouds. Just enjoy the painting process. Don't worry about getting everything exactly as it is in your reference material. Again, I'm just gently moving the paint around with the brush, keeping those edges nice and soft. There's a couple of brush marks in there. I quite like leaving brush marks in the painting sometimes, so I'm going to leave those. There's a fine line sometimes between doing enough on a painting and overworking a painting. So it's just trying to do enough work but keep it looking fresh, like as though it's just been put on, very matter of fact, which, as we all know, it never really is just done like that. It's a combination of sweat and tears. I'll start adding some of these warm peachy colours to this area. Yeah, so I'm just adding a little bit of phthalo blue here. I'll just be careful how much I add because it's quite a strong pigment. So it's just the odd touch here and there. Okay, it's time to start on the field for this next session. So there'll be plenty of greens and yellows and a few more greys. So I'm going to start off with this mix of colours for the greens. I've got a couple of sort of darkish purple greys and some bluish sort of greys down here. Now the colours I'm using are transparent red iron oxide, titanium white, cadmium red, phthalo blue, yellow ochre, lemon yellow and Payne's grey. Now I will be making some alterations to these colours as I go along with the painting. As I've said before, it's quite difficult to actually gauge the correct value and the correct colour when it's just on your palette. The only way to do it really is when it's actually on your painting. I just use a variety of techniques really just to get the effect that I want. I'm using brushes and a rag, just a dry rag. I can also get this effect by remixing some of this sky colour here and bringing that down over this. We've got the clouds just merging into the horizon here, and there are certain places where it's quite sharp as the horizon, so we don't want it all the same. I want it looking as natural as possible. I'm just putting some of the lighter grey on now. Right, I'm going to start introducing this lovely golden yellow ochre colour here now. Just using a mix of titanium white and yellow ochre here. Putting a little bit of lemon yellow. Just introduce a little bit of the transparent red iron oxide now. Now for this blending I am using quite soft brushes. These are ideal for both acrylic and oil. These are nice soft synthetic bristles. I'm just adding a little bit of phthalo blue to this grey, because there's quite a lot of phthalo blue in the sky here, so now I'm not looking to copy the reference photograph exactly at all for this part. I'm just trying to get that sort of feeling of the evening light. So Now I've actually decided to add some Indian yellow here. Now it's quite a strong pigment is this, so I don't really need too much. Right, for these field boundaries and these distant trees, I'm not actually using a green. I'm actually using a mix of cadmium red, phthalo blue, Payne's grey and a small amount of titanium white. This just gives a nice sort of distant dark colour to these. It's like a purplish grey colour. Perfect for these trees and these field boundaries. So you want to get the effect as well of the light sort of coming down. Certain parts of these fields here in shadow and certain parts are just being illuminated by the evening sun. Again, I'm just using a scumbling technique now with this grey, purple grey colour, just to emphasise the landscape in shadow. Just going to darken some of these foreground shadows here. I'm just giving this a quick wipe with a dry rag just in case I've got any sort of thick areas of paint which I really don't want on. So I'll start putting some highlights in here and there. I don't want any thick areas of paint that's going to interfere with me doing that. Okay, I can't resist, I'll just suggest the odd fence post. Hopefully I don't regret it. Right, I think that'll do for those. I'll let the imagination take over for the rest of them. Just the highlights against the darker area in the background just works, and as I say, using a larger brush, so we just make those suggestions Not put any detail in. Right, I'm just going to suggest some of these form buildings here. Just do that with some titanium white and just knock that back a little bit with some yellow ochre. Again, these are just suggestions. The last thing I want to do is start building, the last thing I want to do is start painting detailed buildings. It's going to stand out like a sore thumb and just spoil the atmosphere in the painting. Just put a little extra colour on here. I just want to get these buildings just to pop a little bit. I think some telegraph pole in here. Another one here, just seems to catch the light. Right, I hope you enjoyed that video. Thank you so much for watching. And I'd like to say thank you for all the comments I've been getting in the previous videos. And please keep the comments coming. And if you've got any questions at all, please just drop me a line. I absolutely love answering your questions, so just keep them coming. And thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.